Hello, my name is METİN Arıdaşır. This is 252nd part of explanation of my theory. According to my theory and my formulas, photon mass formula that I put forth. Before explanation, here is angular momentum formula of a photon that I put forth. Angular momentum of a photon is nothing but Planck's constant. Planck's constant is equal to angular momentum of photon is equal to angular motion's linear velocity. This is constant. 2 pi c or 1,884,000 km per second, 6.28 times greater than the speed of light. Here, angular momentum of photon is equals to vc, linear velocity, constant linear velocity for first cycle, multiplied by mass, linear velocity component mass, multiplied by lambda. Electron motion forms wavelength, initial wavelength. Provided that electron motion form is not relocating, lambda normal, this is electron motion form, okay? Yes, this is a point on this surface, this point, this inseparable point on electron motion form is photon, as I told you before, as I defined before. Yes, because vc, linear velocity, is constant and mass is inversely proportional to wavelength, eventually L, angular momentum, or say Planck's constant, will be what? L will be 60, 70, 15, 10 to the minus 34 kilogram meter square per second. This is angular momentum of photon. Planck's constant is nothing but angular momentum of photon. Yes. This is nothing but Planck's constant. Planck's constant is angular momentum of a photon. Therefore, this is my mass formula. We can derive from this formula that I put forth. Mass, provided that electron motion form is not relocating, but it is motion form. It goes on cycling. mass is equal to angular momentum divided by 1,884,000 km/s multiplied by lambda normal. This is constant. This is constant. Okay. Mass inversely proportional to wavelength of electron motion form. Okay. And this is my photon mass formula for angular motions of electron motion forms, linear velocity component mass. Yes. Here. One, as I told you before, a photon is an inseparable imaginary point on a cyclical, repetitive, perpetual spherical ring-shaped electron motion form of meta-sensation perception matter. Photon is only an imaginary, this point, maybe this point, maybe this point. Photon is only an imaginary point on this totally motion surface of electron motion form. Don't forget, electron motion form is not a particle. Photon is not a particle. Electron motion form is intrinsic motion form, totally. Think of three-dimensional, here, in all directions, spherical, ring-shaped, cyclic. Okay. We chose arbitrarily a point, an inseparable point, and we say that photon. Photon is only an imaginary point on this totally motion surface of electron motion form. 2. Total surface motion form as an electron motion form intrinsically has total mass, and as an inseparable point on electron motion form, a photon intrinsically has point mass. Of course, both electron motion form and photon have wavelength. Photon wavelength represents distance between central axis point and electron motion form surface point, or distance between two successive waves points. Lambda. Think of say. Yes. 3. Photon has two components. Speed of light, c, direction component, and linear velocity component. Each of these components has different masses, velocities or speeds, energies, etc. C direction component. In fact, a photon never follows straight line. Its motion is circular or circular-like cyclical motion. If an electron motion form is not bound to a proton, if an electron motion form is free, it produces and propagates successive waves, provided that the electron motion form is not relocating. Here is the time to speak about speed of light, because each point on successive waves in a certain direction represents a photon. And when we unify these points as a line, we tell that the photon travels at the speed of light in straight way. In fact, we only count the paces: 1 pace, 2 paces, 3 paces, 4 paces, so on and so forth. In fact, we only count the paces of perpetually increasing different successive waves points at a certain frequency and wavelength in a certain period. Vc, linear velocity direction component, this is the main and determinative component of the photon. On this angular motion for the first cycle n equal 1, and provided that the electron motion form is not relocating, linear velocity is 1,884,000 km/s is constant and independent of wavelength or frequency, because energy and mass decrease inversely proportional to wavelength. Therefore, because result of multiplication of mass and wavelength, constant. Why? This is constant and this is constant. Because energy and mass decrease inversely proportional to wavelength. Therefore, because result of multiplication of mass and wavelength will be always the same, linear velocity constant multiplied by this unchanged multiplication always will be constant. Angular moment will be constant, will be always constant. That's why the angular momentum of a photon is constant in the context of electron motion form, unlike the other observable universe objects, circular revolving angular momentums. Unlike these phenomena, this is meta sensation perception matter, main realities, fact. Angular momentum in this context is always constant, and in other words, that's why the Planck's constant is constant. Don't forget, Planck's constant is nothing but angular momentum of photon, inseparable point of an electron motion form of meta sensation perception matter. Have a good evening. See you later.